It is one of civilization's medical mysteries, but the World Health Organization describes it as a large group of diseases that can start in almost any organ or tissue of the body when abnormal cells grow uncontrollably, going beyond their usual boundaries to invade adjoining parts of the body and or spread to other organs. Yes, I'm talking about cancer. And despite research and top-notch healthcare, many die from various forms of this disease. Thankfully, there are survivors too, and that's what today is all about. If you did not know, June 1 is National Cancer Survivors Day. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. More when we return.
Here's an important reason you need to avoid or limit alcohol consumption. The World Health Organization, WHO, indicates that there is research evidence of a direct link between several cancers and alcohol consumption as a major contributing factor. It's being cited as a major contributing fact for cancer of the breast, colorectal, esophagus, liver, mouth, throat or pharynx, and voice box or larynx. There is no safe level of alcohol consumption, and the more you consume, the greater your risk. Protect your health. Limit your alcohol intake. Save your life. For help and more information, call the National Council on Drug Abuse, NCDA, at 876-564-HELP. That's 876-564-4357.
It is said to be one of the healthier diets, but much like anything else, safety measures must be taken, and moderation must be applied when consuming seafoods. In this week's episode of Get the Facts, we explore this topic.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the show that gives you information on the latest topics. I'm Theodore Henry. Whether it's fish, shrimp, or lobster, seafood is a staple in many Jamaican homes. But how do you know what's safe to eat, how to store it, or even how to prepare it properly? Acting Manager of the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute, Deidre Taylor, is here to help us get the facts and understand what the BSJ is doing to ensure the seafood reaching your mouth is safe and up to standard. Welcome to Get the Facts, Lady Taylor.
Thank you for having me. Good day.
All right, let's jump right into getting the facts. What's the big deal with seafood safety?
I think seafood is often overlooked when we're talking about food safety. We talk about chicken, we talk about, well, let me not say it's overlooked because we know what happened recently with crabs. So yes, seafood is getting some amount of attention now, but we want to heighten the awareness.
Yeah. And you mentioned crabs, but I remembered quite distinctly when lionfish became a thing. What was the conversation about? It's toxic, and so there are some concerns about what we pull out of the ocean and eat.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we want to bring some awareness to seafood. Lionfish, for example, is something that you consider exotic, and we find that Jamaicans have increased in terms of their appetite for exotic foods.
Okay.
And lionfish does, in fact, contain toxins that will be hazardous for your health.
So the BSJ has what sort of role there in seafood safety?
All right, the BSJ is considered the knowledge center of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We are actually required by the Standards Act to promulgate standards, right? So we do testing and we do training. So in essence, we inform you so that you can conform to the requirements of the standards.
Got it. I like how you put it. The BSJ is the standards arm of the, okay.
Yes, and we inform so that you can conform.
Inform so you can conform. All right, so tell me some of those specific guidelines when it comes to handling, packaging, selling seafood.
All right, I'm glad you mentioned those two because two of the main standards that we use, the JS36, it looks on the standard that applies to how you handle processed foods, right? So it's the standards for processed foods, the standards for labeling, right? Because packaging in itself contains the product, but what is on the packaging informs what you do as a consumer. Right. So if you're like me, you go into the supermarket, you look for your batch code, you look for your best before date, all of those things inform what you do as a consumer.
Okay, so the BSJ informs the providers, the packagers, the handlers
Yes.
about these standards. You have to have this.
They are mandatory, yes. So because the consumers need to know what to look for, it's a requirement for you as a manufacturer to put these appropriate things on your labels.
Got it. We're going to come back to that,
Okay,
what to
no
look
problem.
for. But just before we get there, is there any difference in the standards or the guidelines when it comes to imported seafood as opposed to local?
Not really, because we are concerned about the consuming public in Jamaica. So what obtains in terms of what is processed locally also obtains in terms of what is imported. So the onus is on us to ensure that what comes into the country is safe for our consuming public.
Got it. So it's not standards for standards' sake or any of that stuff. It is for the safety of the public.
Yes, always for the public. That's our role, to ensure safety of the public.
All right. So you told me that when you go to the supermarket, you do the whole 9 yards.
Definitely.
Batch code, everything.
Definitely.
Help me.
All
what
right.
should I look for? What should customers look for when buying seafood?
All right, so if you're going to the market, right, which is separate from the supermarket, there are certain signs of seafood quality. Obviously, the smell, right? Yes, if it has a high odor, you don't necessarily want to buy that product because seafood contains a lot of protein. And one of the ways that you know that spoilage is occurring is because of the high odor that will emanate from the product. I tend to look for the eyes. That is something that is recommended by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. If the eye is clear, you know the product is fresh. If it looks a bit opaque, as though it's getting cloudy, then that is a sign that it's aging.
That's interesting.
Yes, and deteriorating in quality. If you're allowed to touch the eye, then if there's a spring, you know that the product is relatively fresh. Yes,
if it's spring meaning it.
Yes, it bounces back when you remove your finger. But if when you press it, it remains depressed, then you know there's a concern there in terms of aging.
Interesting.
And I think most persons want fresh fish.
Right.
So if it is that it is frozen, however, you may not be able to do all of that testing in terms of the spring, but you'll definitely be able to see the opacity of the eyes. So if it's clear, then you know it's relatively fresh.
Right. You mentioned that in the context of like a market. What about a supermarket?
So in the supermarket, that's mainly where you will find frozen seafood. In terms of your packaged products, now you look for your best before date. That should be on the product itself or on, usually there's a label with the batch code, right? That indicates to you what batch was associated with that product in the event there's a recall.
Right.
And recall usually is something that obtains when the product after the fact is considered not safe for the consuming public, right? You also want to ensure that all of the appropriate details are there. So in terms of labeling, it should bear instructions in English, right? Because we are in Jamaica and English is the language that we use. You want to ensure that the net weight is there. So in terms of value for your money, all of those things are spelled out in our labeling standard at the Bureau of Standards.
Got it. I have to ask. Is there any particularly kind of seafood that Jamaicans should have a little bit more caution?
Oh, yes. All right. So the larger seafoods, right? So like barracuda, for example, and I know persons from my community in Clarendon, they tend to love these foods that are considered a bit more dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, Jamaicans tend to be attracted to risky things. They tend to bioaccumulate toxins as well as bioaccumulate environmental pollutants, right? So you have to look out for the larger fish such as barracuda. We would have mentioned lionfish before. Some of our shellfish, they also have a cause for concern because they too, by virtue of how they exist in the ocean, they also attract some of these pollutants that are in our waters. So we have to be very careful in terms of the consumption of those edibles.
We like danger.
Unfortunately.
Right. Thank you so much for that. We're going to take a break. The discussion will continue with Deidre Taylor, acting manager of the BSJ's Quality Institute.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor. and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
Jamaica Eye can help you protect our citizens.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicaeye.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
Welcome back. I'm still talking with Deidre Taylor, Acting Manager of the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute, and we're discussing safe consumption of seafood. Lady Taylor, you mentioned that the BSJ acts as the knowledge center.
Yes.
So help us understand, how does the BSJ work with the local seafood vendors, manufacturers, the importers? What do you do for them, and what form does it take?
All right, so a very big part of our operations is called client services, right? Where this is a free service offered to the public. We look at micro, small, and medium enterprises. So if you're a sole trader, you can come into us. If you have a business idea, you want to make some lemonade, for example, we can assist you. In terms of seafood, if you're a local seafood vendor, we can assist you. We can give you the requisite training so that you can be compliant with the requirements of the country.
Right, and you mentioned micro, small, so literally anybody can benefit.
Anybody,
from
anybody.
training.
Yes. We actually have a wide range of clients, not that we are not open to more. We have the Quality Institute, which is where I work, and that is actually where the industrial training unit is housed. We have a wide range of trainings. We are big on food safety to the point where we are the only licensed safe quality food institute in the nation. Right, and we offer trainings in seafood in keeping with that.
No, I'm getting the facts. I want to go a little deeper.
Sure.
What format does training take?
All right.
Online, in person? What sort of stuff we're talking here?
We are multimodal, right? So we have some trainings which are face-to-face. When COVID came about, we moved to online, and we found that worked for many persons who wanted to join in different parts of the world. And so sometimes our trainings are hybrid. Right, where we have face-to-face occurring simultaneously with persons online.
Got it. What about the date, the where, the when, the time?
Yeah. All right, so our webinar will be on the 4th of June, 3 days before World Food Safety Day, which is a really big deal, right? So we want to bring some awareness to seafood consumption and in general food safety.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, and is this multimodal or it's entire webinar?
Yes, it's a webinar, so it will be online, right? You can reach out to us at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, 618-1534. You can contact us at the extension 3455 for more details, but we will be sharing it on our social media pages. But if you need more information, feel free to call us.
All right, so we're in the tail end of the interview, and I don't know, is there anything you'd like to say directly to those who are watching, both the consumer and the producers?
Definitely. Okay, so whether you are a single entity or you have many workers at your organization, we have trainings guaranteed to give you success in your operations at the Quality Institute. As I mentioned earlier, we are the only Safe Quality Food Institute licensee in the nation, and so we welcome you to come and do trainings with us so you can be more informed and more in conformance with the requirements of the standards.
That's it. And that's all the time we have for today. We've been having a discussion about seafood safety with Deidre Taylor, Acting Manager of the BSJ's Quality Institute. This has been Get the Facts, and I'm your host, Theodore Henry. Until next time, stay safe.
What is this new qualification from the Caribbean Examinations Council? A bold leap into the future of Caribbean education is the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate, or CTEC. Set at the same academic standard as CSEC and CAPE, CTech will use the same syllabuses but with a progressive twist. This isn't just about grades, it's about growth. The focus will be on related and relevant learning outcomes while supporting the gradual development of key competencies. The syllabus is also designed to allow for continuous progressive learning.
This new qualification is what we call the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate, CTEC. This CTEC, along with the suite of credentials that we offer, will be our micro-credential and will be awarded to students who successfully achieve a module.
Each subject is broken into modules. Complete one module and you earn a micro-credential. Stack them and you work your way up to full qualifications like CSEC, CAPE, and even an associate degree, part of a broader credential pathway designed for flexibility and lifelong learning.
There is continuity from the micro-credential to the intermediate to the macro, and students will have several opportunities to achieve that pathway.
CTEC takes two main approaches, subject-based and skills-based. Whether you're working toward traditional subjects or mastering real-life scenarios, each path is tailored to match a student's goals and context. So a lot more flexibility will be available to students in achieving and demonstrating the level of competencies acquired. The pilot will start first with both English and mathematics, and the modularization of English and mathematics will be done across 3 modules, and each module will be assessed independently, and the combination of those 3 modules will provide for the award of the full certification.
For example, in mathematics, CTEC Award Module 1 will be achieved by a student at any point throughout their study. 2, 3, and all of that come together to give it a full CSEC mathematics qualification.
If students have to leave school, they can pick up where they left off. No need to start over. For example, if they completed Module 1, they could return later to complete Modules 2 and 3 to earn the full CTEC certification.
All of this will add a lot of flexibility because a student studying engineering can now take a module in the business subject, let's say in entrepreneurship, because he's interested in starting his own business after completing the program. So a lot of flexibility will be achieved through this.
The pilot phase of the CTEC certification project is scheduled to begin in September, with the first certificates set to be issued in 2026.
It's always beautiful in Jamaica. Everything usually be green and pretty. We have beautiful water. Temperature that is normal temperature. The water never cold. We've been into business for about 13 years. JUSC COOL. Just cool. It's spelled with 3 zeros. We make 3 different types of pudding. We make potato, we make cornmeal, and we make total. This is the cornmeal, okay? That's actually almost the last process. What he's gonna do now, he's gonna put the gel on top. Within no time, he has to take it off because the gel give it a nice taste. We have people like Shelly and Fraser came here. We have, you could name the biggest artists, Shabba Ranks, name them all. Being the Man, they all come here and buy their pudding. This is what we grew up on. Now, when the people come to Jamaica, everybody, as soon as they land off the plane, this is where they come. They want to taste this pudding because it's bringing them back to the old days. Long time days when they was kids growing up and they used to sit on the fire and watch their mama, their grandmother bake the pudding. We try not to change off our roots, we try to keep it that way. And not only that, we have a lot of love because we're all about love.
As I mentioned earlier, today, June 1, is being celebrated as National Cancer Survivors Day. And while we are indeed thankful for those beating this illness, the fight continues. We will now look at the issue of bladder cancer, a rare one, but still a deadly one.
According to the World Health Organization's World Health Ranking, someone in Jamaica is more likely to lose their life from prostate cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, stomach, cervical, liver, uterine, and even ovary cancer before they'll ever go from bladder cancer. Now, the rarity of this illness drafted local statistics at 0.34% of the total number of deaths in the island in 2018. That's only 62 people. But of course, that's 62 people too many. And maybe, just possibly, 62,000 people not having ever heard of this disease until now.
So the bladder is a small muscular organ that is in the pelvis, deep down in the pelvis. Its purpose is really to store urine. Now, cancer, as has been said before, it refers to the unregulated abnormal growth of cells, and in this case it would be the bladder. So bladder cancer is unregulated growth, usually from the lining of the bladder, that is abnormal cell growth. So the signs and symptoms of bladder cancer, usually the commonest sign is usually hematuria. Now what hematuria is blood in the urine. So usually it's painless hematuria, maybe painful hematuria, which is pain along with blood in the urine. Also, there may be irritative bladder symptoms, or as we would say, storage, lower urinary tract symptoms. Some of these include urgency, frequency, going to the bathroom frequently, waking up often at nights, it's known as nocturia, and in general, some dysuria, which is like burning when you pass your urine.
Now, before you experience any of those symptoms, there are some causative factors that lead to bladder cancer that you may want to assess first. It simply means that while it happens, it's usually preventable.
The commonest causative factor for bladder cancer is cigarette smoking. It's actually associated with about 50 to 60% of bladder cancers. There are other risk factors which are known as occupational hazards. So individuals who work in the industries and have prolonged exposure to aromatic amines, aromatic hydrocarbons. So in the textile industry, painters, those who work with tar, amongst other occupational hazards, are at risk for bladder cancer. Patients who also have, for whatever reason, they'll have chronic irritations in the bladder. So there's a parasitic infestation known as schistosomiasis that's really associated with bladder cancer also. Patients who have chronic catheters, indwelling catheters, as well as bladder stones and a few other things that cause chronic irritation to the bladder.
Now, bladder cancer is very picky when it comes down to gender, with the likelihood of displaying its sprouting behavior on men more often than women. And while the data shows that you don't necessarily need to be thinking about this until you're well over your 40s, there is proof that it affects many of us who are nowhere near to collecting our pension. Wow.
The older you become is the more at risk you are. Usually not before the age of 40 that bladder cancer is seen. It's more common in the 5th to 6th decades of life. 5th, 6th, 7th decades of life. It's actually more common in men than women, and this is thought to be associated with lifestyle amongst other things. Bladder cancer is very treatable. In fact, most bladder cancers present as organ-confined disease, meaning that they're absolutely curable. The treatment options include definitely surgery. This involves what is known as a transurethral resection of the bladder to actually get diagnosis, and in some cases is curative if the tumor is completely gotten. This involves passing instruments through the urethra, which is the opening through which you pass urine from the bladder. and that allows us to see the tumor. It allows us to resect or scrape the tumor away from the bladder wall. And in some cases, we may or may not give intravesical immunotherapy or chemotherapy, depending on the risk of the disease. But that's usually how bladder cancer is initially treated.
So now may be a good time to just pause for a bit and think about the causes, signs, and symptoms of bladder cancer. And if you've been treated from it before, remember to get your regular checkups, because bladder cancer has a high recurrence rate. Watching from the sidelines or the confines of a bed can be a bit of a sting for some, piercing for others. So let's go stronger and healthier together by prioritizing our health.
Juicy, buy a juice from me, no?
But wait, do you have a permit? Whether you're running a restaurant, baking gizadas at home, or selling juice on the corner, if you handle food in a affiliated country, you need a food handler's permit. It's the law, and it applies to anyone preparing, serving, transporting, or dealing with food.
It means that you would be in conformance with the public health food handling regulations, and so it is important that persons make their application so that they can get the requisite training in an effort to ensure that the foods that are offered to the public are safe, wholesome, and free from any form of contamination.
Don't take chances. Get certified, stay compliant, and apply today.
Your devices are important, and so is charging them safely.
Never charge your phones or your laptop in bed, or leave them charging on your sofa or on any material that is flammable. That is a risk that is too great for you to take on.
Instead, charge your devices on a hard surface and always unplug them once fully charged.
We've come to the end of today's show. To catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website, gis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.